guys. Welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Barry LaBov. And he is a bread and butter guest for the audience on the show. And he's written a book which he'll talk about, Power of Differentiation. And it's a great way for the guest to learn how to build a brand, build an online business, become an author, speaker, coach, hold mastermind. So, Barry, welcome.
Christopher, I'm honored to join you today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
This podcasting is, it's my way to connect and just share and have fun. And briefly, we talk backstage. Talk about what you do, how you got there, and how you can best serve the audience.
I started in my career at a very young age because I was a musician. So when I was in my early teens, I began as a rock and roll musician, tried to make it big, wrote a lot of different songs, produced songs, worked with a lot of great people in bands, motivated them, recorded them, arranged all of that. And as time went on, I then started a business that was related to it. It was a music-related, audio-related business. So as the years went on, I then started to do that kind of work. I then faced a tragedy in my life when I was in my late 20s, which was my father passed away. And I had an awakening, Christopher. I really had to stop and go, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing a little bit of music with my band and a little bit with my business? And I decided to commit. So at the age of 28, I committed to my business. I gave myself permission to change my mind if I wanted to, but I never looked back. From that point, I've been able to really be part of a great company that does advertising and marketing and training for companies all over the world. So we work with Macallan Scotch, we work with Harley Davidson, we work with Audi of America, we work with Hyundai Motors, Carrier HVAC, great companies. And it's been a journey for me, but I've gotten to meet so many great people and learn so many things.
I love that. And so, we'll kind of, I recently just finished this book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Data, and he's talking about the boy must die. And part of that is, kind of removing your attachment from your parents, particularly your father or mother. And what's interesting is bringing back to brand differentiation is it's kind of intuitive, but it's hard at the same time because you're kind of going out against what kind of is like the mainstream. So talk about why is brand differentiation more important today than ever? How do you keep that mindset when people are like, you don't fit in, you're never going to make it, these types of messages?
Well, it's funny you said that. I, on a couple of occasions, have been told, look, you have no talent. You're never going to make it. Give up. And luckily, I persevered and pushed through those. But here's what's important. We must realize that today there's a great, great pressure to commoditize. And that means lower your price, look like, act like, behave like, sell like everybody else. And what happens is a couple of really bad things. Number one, you're not able to make any money because you have to dumb everything down and your price has to go even dumber than that. But on top of that, what happens is the very people who work with you, your team, your employees, everybody that represents you, they become demoralized. And then it starts another problem because then why should they care about doing a good job? So today, what's important is we must identify the 1, 2, 3 or so things that we do that are different, not necessarily superior, but they're different. They're unique. They're special. And we have to be able to communicate them. And the very first thing we do once we do that, Christopher, is we celebrate it with the most important people, our employees, and everyone who believes in us.
I really like that. And it's kind of like once you realize like what your superpower is, and you the more the more you differentiate, like just kind of just exit from the mainstream, like that's like this that's your superpower, and that's what and then it's kind of really takes discipline to be like, no, I'm gonna stick to this path and I'm not gonna, go with the mainstream. So the other kind of you talked about leaders of a company sharing and celebrating their brand differentiation with employees first before the rest of the world. And why is that?
Well, it's so important today. If we look at it, people are very disenfranchised. They feel like, hey, what I'm doing is not that important. I don't have any significance. And they'll leave your company for a quarter, 25 cents more an hour to go down the street. Or maybe they'll just quit the job and maybe they won't do anything for a few months. We have to convince everybody that works with us that what they're doing is actually important. It actually has meaning. It has significance. And if they can feel that, and it's got to be sincere, of course, but if they feel that, there's so many good things that happen. I mean, first of all, their life is better, which is a big deal. Another thing is they're going to do a better job. They're going to think about better ways to take care of the customer, and they're going to make sure each of their fellow coworkers are doing their job as well. And by the way, they'll invite their friends to join this place because we're actually doing something great.
It brings up these because I was reading this book when it's talking about this epidemic of silent quitting, basically just employees just doing just enough to just like get by and hang on, and just kind of like being cogs in the machine and just like having no meaning and significance. And I actually, like a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to these days, they're like, yeah, instead of getting fired, they'll actually fire themselves. They just won't like they won't for better or worse, they show up to a job that they hate, and they'll just, because we have so many options. So one thing, so I love this idea. And then talk about customer experience, winning or losing customers and employees. How do you create, top rated customer experiences like Zappos or Apple, like these really big brand names?
Well, it's very, very important for us to realize one thing, Christopher, and a lot of us don't think about it, but it's so true. And that is we as consumers. So let's take off our hats as doctors and attorneys, et cetera. Let's just look at our lives as consumers. We do not distinguish between the experience we have when we're purchasing something versus the brand itself. It's all the same to us. So here's an example. Let's say you're watching TV and there's a great commercial about a car and you go, I've got to buy that car. You go into the dealership and it's a terrible, terrible experience. You go, oh my gosh, it's horrible. So you leave. Of course, you don't buy it. And you go, I will never buy that brand again. Well, if we stop for a moment, that car is probably a great car. It didn't get bad during the time that you were in that dealership. What happened was you had a lousy experience, and that lousy experience now becomes your lousy brand experience. So what we have to realize as leaders, entrepreneurs, is that the experience we deliver, and that comes from our people, because 90% of the time it's not me or you, it's the people representing us. We have to realize that if they don't believe, and if they think what they're doing is no big deal, and they treat the customer that way, the customer will not just look at them as disengaged people. They're going to go, you know what? This brand, this product, this doctor, this attorney, whoever it is, they're no good. I don't want them. In fact, I'm going to tell people not to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. The internet basically democratize information, and now we have information. Now you can search anything and you can see the review, and you can search based on reviews, and it's like kind of like giving power back to the hands of the customer and the consumers.
Mhm.
So the other question is, how does one build a brand's uniqueness to win heart, minds, and market share?
Well, I appreciate you asking that. That's the subtitle of my book. The book is called The Power of Differentiation. The subtitle is Win, W-I-N, Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. And that's the key. That's the secret. You've got to win the hearts of the people who represent you. Then you got to win their minds. They got to think, okay, this makes sense. This is actually something that is valuable. This is something that has some meaning to it. And if you do that, you're more likely than ever to win the market share and sales because your customers see it, they feel it, and you can win the hearts and minds of them as you share your story. It's really important that we also realize, and I really think this is important for our audience, is it's so critical that we don't wait for the once a year meeting to tell everybody what we're doing and why it's important. Every single day, every interaction with your team is an opportunity to reinforce the message that, you know what, we're doing something that's kind of special here. And what you're doing makes it even more special.
The other kind of a follow-up question to that is, what makes your branding process unique to any other? Because we talked about discovering it, and how does your process create unique brands, and how is it unique?
We have a 5-step process we call brand re-engineering. We've got 5 steps. The average marketing company does at least 3 of those, maybe 3.5 of those, but there is one of the 5 that nobody does, and that is, we call it a technical immersion. And what we do is, whether it's virtual or in person, we dig into the specifics, the technicalities, the technology, the metallurgy, the products, the features of what you're providing. And you might say, well, gee, I'm a service business. Okay, we work with service businesses, and we find that they have a certain customer experience, or they have a certain quality control process. They have a certain approach to doing this or that. We dig into it. That's what our focus is in that portion of our brand re-engineering process. And we find things, by the way, that are right in front of our clients. They just haven't paid attention to them for years because they're so close to them. It's like your children. If any of us who have children, somebody may say, oh, your daughter has tremendous talent in such and such. And you go, what? My daughter? Well, it's because you're so close. And it's the same thing with the product and services we provide. We get too close to them. We don't see the magic. So my company comes in, and it's one of the funnest things we do. We go in and we find the magic in what is already being done, what's already being paid for by the client. They're already doing it. And we go, hold on a minute. We got to stop. We got to honor this. We got to name it. We got to celebrate it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so next thing is talking about is your book, and I know we talked about the power of differentiation, and kind of talk about kind of the, what people can expect to get from it, and where can they find it, and why did you write the book, and we'll go into further on.
Well, it's a great question. I originally wrote the book thinking it would be a really good book on branding and marketing. As I went through the process and COVID hit, and all of the mass defections of employees leaving their companies, 50 million employees left their companies in 2021 alone. It all of a sudden dawned on me that this book is not just about how do you market your product. It's about how do you win the hearts and minds of the people who represent it. Because if you don't do that, you're in huge trouble. So that's what inspired the book. And what's so important for anyone who does read the book is it's a collection of very, very positive stories of many different companies throughout the world in different industries. Some are small, some are over 200-year-old companies, some are very famous, some are companies you'll never run into and don't even know exist, but they have found that magic, and they have been able to leverage that to inspire their people and become far more profitable, because it becomes a more exciting company because you're working on really great stuff, you have confidence, and you're actually charging for it now, and your people feel good about it. So it's a very positive book. And in some spots, it's almost a handbook. If you want to follow these steps, here's how you can do it. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. What a fantastic discussion. I love to end it with, talking about, because your story is from a rock musician, you're entrepreneur, and you work with a lot of big name brands. Why did they choose you? And, for the audience that are interested in working with like a brand differentiator, how can they contact you and work with you?
My company is called LaBov Marketing and Communication. So it's LAB as in boy, OV. So LABOV.com. My name is Barry LaBov. So it's BarryLaBov.com, which is my personal website. They can purchase my book on Amazon or anywhere Simon & Schuster distributes books worldwide. I would love them to do it. I'd love them to also leave a review because I think that's important too. When you go to my website or my company's website, you can reach out. And I have people reaching out almost on a daily basis to say hi, to ask a question. It's not a transactional situation, but it's a fun one where you get to meet people. So I welcome that every day, Christopher.
Yeah, awesome. And for all the audience, let's thank Barry for coming on, and really enjoyed this conversation about differentiation. And for all the audience, be sure to check out his book. It'll be on Amazon and links and show notes. Follow him on socials, give him a like and follow, and reach out to him if you want to work with him. And thanks so much, Barry, for coming on.
Christopher, it has been an honor.